And I set Profit Impact up with a mission to help businesses integrate their triple bottom line. And fundamentally, I've done that for two reasons. One is I truly believe that it strengthens businesses' long-term future, and it makes the world a happier place. So when you make decisions more broadly rather than just on profit, that's what I fundamentally believe. And that's the journey we are going on with our customers at Profit Impact. We've got an approach. The way we work with our customers is really blended to what you need today. We're strategic, but also we're hands-on, and we're here to guide our customers. And hopefully that will come out as we move through. We move through and start to talk to clinical partners, and they can tell you what they've seen and what they haven't seen. Knowledge transfer is really important, and I think as we go through, you'll see. I think some of you will understand the space quite well, and for probably the majority of you, this will be quite new, and there's quite a lot to learn. So it's really important for us that we can help you do that. And we work with carbon literacy experts. I think they're on the call. Lighthouse, give them a bit of a shout out. And we use sticker book and coaching for that. So education and action, really important for us to help you. But that's enough about Profit Impact. I have worked with clinical partners for 2.5 years now, and they're on a really fantastic journey. And I asked them, and they may have even volunteered. I can't quite remember how the conversation went, but I said, would you come and talk to people? I think it's a really important message to share. And they said yes. So that's why the webinar's here, basically. So perhaps, Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself, and then Chikara and Ted can do the same?
Yeah, happy to do that. Just to say to everybody, I'm sort of quite excited with Chikara and Ted to be here supporting Sarah and Profit Impact today and her team, who've added value to clinical partners over the last sort of 2.5 years or so. So I'm Adrian Clark. I'm Commercial Director, Chair of the Investment Committee, and an original founder of Clinical Partners. My sort of colleague, business partner, the principal owner of Clinical Partners is Barney. Barney and I met so I'm just giving you a bit of the reason why we're doing what we're doing. Barney and I met 30 years ago doing MBAs in Bradford. Barney's sort of well-heeled, well-educated, well-connected. I come from the other side of the track, single parent mother, brought 7 kids up, done an absolutely terrific job with us. So why is that important? Well, it's important because Barney and I come from very different backgrounds. We view the world through different lenses, but what we found very quickly was that our values were aligned. And you know, the drive for Clinical Partners is really all about sort of lived experience, and particularly on Barney's side, and he's absolutely driven to help people with mental health conditions get better. And I guess my part of the role is I'm commercially minded, and I know that whatever we do has had to be sustainable for the long term. So that's why it's important. It's all about, you know, patients, our people, and quality, governance, safety. You know, are we effective and caring in what we're doing on a daily basis? And really the foundation of our sort of values is that we do the right thing in every situation. And we believe that we're a force for good, and we're trying to do the right thing. Hence our involvement with, I'll call it, you know, we set off on a journey of net zero, ESGs, turned into Evergreen and B Corp. It's really all about sustainability of the organisation, of people, you know, of our people. We've got to be profitable, and it's about the planet. And that is sort of a secular thing. And we're really, I say, passionate about what we're doing, and we've grown into this Evergreen journey, from a very small and slow start, but it's becoming increasingly important to our organisation. So my role at Clinical Partners is really, it's about enablement, it's getting board engagement and involvement, and we've got a great team with Shikara and Ted. So, with the help of Sarah and her team, doing just amazing things towards our, journey on our ESG journey. It's really very exciting. So, Sarah, is that enough from me?
That's perfect. That's perfect for now, Adrian. Thank you. We'll dig in a little bit deeper after I've given an explanation of the Evergreen. But thank you. Shikara, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Shikara, and I work as part of the marketing team here at Clinical Partners. And in terms of our Evergreen journey, I've been involved in supporting and communicating parts of our journey internally and externally. Bringing around awareness and making sustainability feel relevant rather than just a compliance exercise to our people and our potential customers as well. That's what I do in a nutshell.
Thanks, Shikara. Thank you. And then last but certainly not least, Ted.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I'm Ted, and I'm a strategy associate at Clinical Partners, and I work very closely with both Adrian and Barney. And I think initially I should say that throughout my 2 years of being at Clinical Partners, we've got 4 values, but I think that I always feel like the overarching one is an aim and striving, always try and do the right thing. And I think that drives a lot of our decisions around what we're doing with the business. In practice, I guess I'm helping think about growth ideas, and in the context of doing the right thing, that's where we think that engaging properly in ESG, and Sarah will come on to it, but within Evergreen you've got B Corp is not only a investment, but as Adrian said, he's enabled, but it ties in with our sort of overarching mission of trying to do the right thing. And as we'll go on to see, there's a sort of balance between both the commercial benefit and also the more intangible, altruistic rewards that you get from engaging.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you. Yeah, we will get onto that. Actually, it's been a really important part of the journey, that particular thing. What I wanted to start with though is, why is this important to the NHS? I think everybody likely is on the call are aware how tough it is for the NHS. They've obviously been through a lot of change. Financially, it's very demanding for them. And some people may think, well, why are they focusing on this? Why are they focusing on this? And in terms of what they are doing, I can tell you they are the only organisation in the UK that have made this mandatory for any business of any size. I do have a hunch that it's the only organisation globally, but I can't actually prove that at the moment. I can't actually be sure, but I have seen no evidence anywhere. So the NHS are leading the way. We're going to put in the chat, and we'll also share this afterwards when we share the health check and the recording, a link to a really fantastic piece of work by the King's Fund, who've done some research on sustainability in the NHS. I would encourage you to have a look, it's quite helpful. But the reasons they are doing this, in our view and from what we can see, is that they are responsible for the nation's health. They're the largest employer in the UK, 1.7 million people, and 40% of public sector carbon emissions come from the NHS. It's just a huge ecosystem. Alongside that, I think there's two themes to think about, and it is very interesting to me that the healthcare sector is the first sector to move. Yeah, that's how I view it. They are the first ones to move, and that's because for two reasons. One is operational cost savings. They've done a lot of research, and there's quite a few stats in that document from the King's Fund. They've saved £59 million a year through decarbonising travel and transport. They're making significant savings on single-use consumables, chemical waste. So there's money to be saved, which is obviously important. Yeah, it's really important to them. I think what's really interesting is they recognise the long-term benefits of doing this, and there is a clear link between mental well-being and eco-anxiety. It's by no means the number one reason. The number one reason people in the UK are struggling with their mental health actually is poverty, but eco-anxiety is up there. And so if we don't manage the climate, that's only going to get worse, and that's only going to put even more pressure under the onto the NHS. So that's an interesting point. And then the physical climate impacts that are coming. So, I mean, fundamentally, if they don't do this, okay, there's going to be escalating costs to the NHS. That's the fundamental reason. So now they can make some short-term operational savings, and they're future-proofing by making these changes. So that's at a high level. We believe the reasons why. There's clearly a lot of information underneath that, but that's worth considering. So, right, okay, so we're going to start talking about the requirements now. And it's now mandatory, right? Level 1 is mandatory, and I'm going to talk a little bit detail about that and on the next slide, but I just want to talk about the pledges that the NHS have actually made. So they've made 2 pledges. The first is to get to net zero for the emissions they control by 2040, and then to get to net zero for their NHS supply chain by 2045. What is worth noting is that 60% of their carbon footprint is within their supply chain. So they simply cannot achieve their target without the suppliers being engaged, and that's why it's mandatory. It does beg the question, and probably many of you are sat here thinking, this is why, when we have many net zero targets from larger companies out there, but there's not a lot of mandation. So my question is, how are they going to get there? And the NHS have recognised that, and they're doing something about that. So that's what they want to achieve, and that's what they're setting out to achieve. It's very ambitious. It's very ambitious, but I think they're putting all of the right things in place to make that happen. They're maximising their chances, is what I think. From what we can see, the Evergreen is required, and it's not evaluated at tender level. So tenders are sort of scored outside of Evergreen, but they will ask you if you've been assessed for Evergreen. Your maturity score, once you get that, is valid for 12 months. So say if you got to level 1 next month, then that's valid for a year. And then if you got to level 2 by December, you could apply to get that changed and get that uplifted to 2. But effectively, you've got your level 1 for a year if you just do level 1. I wanted to just give a couple of operational tips on the actual submission, just while we're talking about it. It's very data driven, the submission, particularly around the carbon, which is at level 1. There's lots of data points, and when you fill it in, it's literally a pass or, and it's quite tricky to work out where you may have passed or failed. So if you're going, this is something Profit Impact can help you with if you want it. This is what we did with clinical partners. But if you do it yourself, just make sure that somebody who does it is numerical and understands all the data. Otherwise, you will just go around in circles. It's also a self-assessment, so you don't actually get audited by Evergreen. It's literally automated. So you pop your data in, click submit, and then you get an email to say pass or fail. Yeah. So you've been awarded level 2, or you haven't been awarded anything, and that's it. And then there's no communication. The people on the other end of the inbox are actually quite responsive. So I've had quite a lot of joy with getting their communication. But it is an inbox. That is literally as far as it gets. So that's how that works. What I failed to say was, if you have questions, put them in the chat. And if any pop up as we go that we think is relevant, I'll answer them, or we do have time at the end. But that's how it works. So there's been over 3,000 submissions since it was launched. 62% have not been awarded anything, which I think is quite interesting. 21% are at level 1, 15% are at level 2, and then level 3 and level 4 are less than 2% in total. And it seems from the feedback we're getting is that not many businesses are moving into that upper level. Clinical partners have set a broad ambition to get to level 4. And I think what's interesting about the clinical partners journey is that they've started at level 0 and they're going to go for level 4. And that's one of the other reasons why I really wanted to have this conversation with them, with you, is they are where most of you, they were where most of you are today. Yeah. And they've approached this in completely the right way, and probably the same way as you would do it. So so that's the stats in terms of the take up.
Sarah, can I just add, while you were talking about the levels, I think it is just worth, and I'm sure we'll come on to it, but it's just worth making the point that it's an increasingly complex task going through the levels. So I think it's a level 1 is something that is achievable probably in a reasonable amount of time, but I think it is depending on how far you want to take it, it is a commitment and no small sort of task to try and work your way through the framework. That said, I think we have noticed that the framework is a great structure in a world that is developing, and there are lots of different ways of engaging in sustainability. The Evergreen framework has been a great set of guide rails to work towards, and within there you've also got other accreditations like B Corp. So I think it's also an accreditation that will carry weight beyond just your operations with the NHS. You've got the largest UK organisation approving you as a whichever level sort of sustainable supplier, and I think that can be recognised beyond the bounds of the NHS.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, that. And one of the things that I was going to say, but again I didn't say it, is that this design, I don't know who's designed this framework, but it is excellent because it does take you on a journey, and you can work at your pace. So you can start, as Ted said, you can do the carbon reduction plan, which you'll have to do because it's mandatory. It's eminently doable, okay, but you can do that but then you can choose where you go next with that if you want to go further. And it's been very well designed. I think it's very pragmatic. So yeah, so we will get into that when we talk to clinical partners soon about their journey. What I wanted to go through now is the roadmap. Okay, so I don't want people to be too overwhelmed with this, and we can take questions, and like I say, you'll get your health check and we can have calls. But effectively, level one is the mandatory one. Yeah, so it's the carbon reduction plan, referred to as PPN 06 for some people, was PPN 0621. If you're a B Corp, I don't know if there's any B Corp certified organisations. If you are, do pop that in the chat. That's also referred to as a climate action plan. It's also referred to as a net zero strategy. Okay, so there's all these different jargons, but that effectively it is your plan to measure your carbon today and how can you eliminate your carbon over what time frame. That's effectively what it is. And that is that's mandatory for level one. And for this year, you can choose to report a subset of scope 3. So emissions are split into 15 buckets. And for scope 3, which is effectively not quite all, but effectively your supply chain, you can just report on 5. And from next year, you need to do all of them. Yeah, so from next year, every supplier, whatever level you're on, you've got to do all relevant categories. That's going to be quite a big change for people that are at level 1 now. But it is a good thing. I think it will definitely help businesses understand things much more. The other thing which is worth saying is that progress needs to be evidenced annually. So you need to be able to do that. So you need a plan and then to be able to say this is what you're going to do, and then you look back and you say, well, this is what we've actually done, and then this is what we're going to do next year. And those plans will feed into your obviously your reduction targets. So it works really well from that perspective. It gets a little bit mathematical, but it just gives you evidence, and I think it's very helpful for the business owners to wrap their head around it. It's probably the one thing which gets mathematical, which does really support businesses, I think. So that's level 1. Level 2, you have to have a modern slavery policy published, even if you don't not legally required to. And then you need to be able to evidence social value, and that's the additional economic, social, and environmental benefit you bring beyond your goods and services that you're delivering to the NHS. That could be economic growth, it could be clean energy, community health and well-being. I think what I find very interesting on the social value, and it's what I find with all my customers, and most of my customers come to me and say, Sarah, what's this all about, Sarah? You're going to have to help me understand this. But actually, they've done. I always find that they're doing some really good stuff, and social value is one of those. So there's probably good news for you in that. For those of you that are at level 0 or 1 today, I think you could get to level 2 reasonably easily, actually. We did have a question that came in before the session about whether you have to report on every category of scope 3 emissions to achieve level 2. You do. So that's the other change that you need to do to get to level 2. So that's level 1 and level 2. And then level 3. So you'll see 4 boxes at level 3. The first box is not on the Evergreen matrix. I've just given another box, and Yes, Richard, it's relevant. It's relevant scope 3. So if it's relevant to you, you have to report on it. That's right. So purpose and governance is not specifically mentioned on the Evergreen matrix, but we believe that that's something that you need to do to enable you to achieve level 3. For the requirements from Evergreen perspective are the modern slavery assessment tool, global boundary for your net zero, and 2045 net zero target, which is third party verified. And that's one of the key changes as you move into levels 3 and 4. It's the external verification. So if you remember what I said at the beginning is that you submit your information, and it's almost it's an automated response. So for level 1 and level 2, it's basically best endeavours, and then they will say yay or nay. But once you get to level 3 or 4, then that's when the third party verification comes in. And for level 3, the verification is on your carbon reduction. Okay. And so yeah, as I've already said, but 1% of suppliers at level 3. Okay, let's go to level 4. So there's 3 things for level 4. So you can't be level 4 if you, as a subsidiary, have got a net zero target, but your parent hasn't. So which is quite an important point if you're part of a complex group or just part of a group. There's got to be parent level buy-in for that. You have to have transparent reporting, which I'll come on to in a minute. And then you actually have to be actively manage any high modern slavery risks that you've got in your business. So level 3 is you do your modern slavery assessment and you know where your risks may be. Level 4 is evidencing that you're actively managing them. And then the transparent reporting, what I've shown there, you've got a few options. So Evergreen propose, well, they suggest EcoVadis, B Corp, and Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP. EcoVadis, sorry. EcoVadis, think of it as like a credit score, and it tends to be used by larger corporates. B Corp is a framework to integrate a strategy which leads off your purpose and your values, and that's the one that we use. As Ted alluded to earlier, and I think I agree with him on this, is that the B Corp framework is a great framework to follow. You may decide you don't want to become B Corp certified, but the actual framework is solid, particularly in the new standards. And then the CDP is a focusing on just the environment. Okay, just focusing on the environment. So I don't know, I will be honest with you, whether you can do a different framework. You may have another framework. You may well be under Future Fit, as an example. I would recommend that you reach out to the Evergreen team if you have that as a question. They're the 3 ones that they recommend, what they certainly suggest on the matrix. And I've shown at the bottom of that screen the 4 extra things that, if you were to pursue B Corp for your transparency reporting, they're the 4 things that you would include. So it just gives you a little bit of a flavour of what that means. Okay, how are we doing for time? Let's move on. Okay, so I can't see whether there's any questions in the chat on that, but we can come back to that a little bit later on. If people have got questions, I really appreciate there's a lot to take in there, particularly for those of you at level 0 and level 1. Okay, I think it's time to hear from clinical partners. Rather than just my good self, because I think what I'd really like to just have a really honest conversation about how this started. And then the moment that I think, Adrian, you just realised that it just spoke to your values, and then why we agreed to get to level 4, and then just have a really kind of honest conversation about this. Because it's not been without its challenges. I think we'll be the first to kind of say that. So Adrian, do you want to kick off, and then we can just have an open conversation? And if anyone's got questions for clinical partners, please put them in the chat.
Yeah, okay. So, so for me, I think, this started a little while ago, maybe 3 to 4 years ago. And just by chance, I attended a webinar and a networking event that were talking about, so not evergreen, but really it was a net zero start. And that is where it sort of just, I'm going to say, got my interest. And then the more I looked into it, I started to think that, oh, this is a whole new language. It's a whole new thing to me. And I don't really understand, some of the language, what they're saying, but I'd always felt like what they were trying to achieve is something good. And look, first and foremost, I'm a dad and a granddad. And in my lifetime, I've definitely seen changes in the environment. So just undeniable to me. So I think that is the sort of the basis, the start point from where I came from. And then slowly but surely, we had 1 or 2 meetings with, I'll just say, various experts in this field. And then we came across Sarah. And that was a changing point for us, because it was really Sarah's passion, enthusiasm. She was looking to work with people, organisations that were more than just trying to tick a box to get a contract. And that really did get my interest with Profit Impact and Sarah. And Sarah's really, I'm going to say, it's been a hand-holding job for us on the whole journey over the last couple of years, and it's been really valuable. And rather than trying to look, when I'm looking at them last slides that Sarah's sharing with you, even I look at that and we're on the journey and I think, wow, that's a big thing to do. But rather than thinking of it in that way, we've always thought, and I've always thought, that, hey, let's just start with the first step and see what happens after that. And if I could get commitment from the organisation for step 1, and we can demonstrate some outcomes and even just simple things, but if we could demonstrate progress and engagement from our people, then maybe we can take step 2 and then step 3. And that's really how it's gone. I've probably just gone on a bit too much there, Sarah, from a starting point of view, but that's where we start. But it really aligns to our values about, hey, whatever's going on, whatever our mission is, if you like, for clinical partners, this is a bigger thing than that. And we as an organisation, if we want to grow and be sustainable for the long term, we've got to think more than just about ourselves. So I'm just really trying to tie our why and our value base to the, why we're increasingly seeing this as being an important part of the journey. And look, I am commercially minded, and make no bones about it that NHS are serious about this. And if you're going to be contracting with the NHS in the future, these are just, it's going to be just expected that you have this have these certifications or something very similar. So that's my bit.
No, thank you, Adrian. Yes, I should always remember that call and that very first, what's this all about? And it has been very interesting, the journey that we're on. Shikara, what have you learnt on the project?
Well, I've learned a lot joining the Net Zero team, and I think when it comes to our reputation, you know, our patients, our partners, you know, commissioners, they all want to understand what we do as an organization and what we stand for beyond the service that we provide. So it's not, from a marketing perspective, it's not just about looking good and looking good externally, but it's also about how our values represent how we operate, and we talk the talk and we do what we want to do as a healthcare provider. So yeah, when we work in healthcare, trust matters a lot. And you know, people expect organizations to think long term, which is what we are doing. We're trying to act responsibly, and we care about the wider impact of what we do. And it's not just about immediate outcomes. And obviously, with the Evergreen journey, it's not about immediate outcomes. It's a long haul. It's a long journey. And we're committed to doing that. And that's why we're at level 2. And that's why we're going to level 3 and going to level 4 eventually. It's broad. Evergreen's very broad. And I think before being involved in this, I just assumed sustainability was, you know, a plan on a page, and, you know, it could be fluff, who knows, right? But it made me realize it's not just one single initiative. It's about being, especially in healthcare, it's about being resilient as an organization and building a healthy future for everybody involved. So yeah, that's how I sort of view it from a marketing perspective. I'm very passionate about it. Really am passionate about this.
I know, and that comes through in every single meeting we have. And I think what I didn't explain was when we first started the project, it was Adrian, myself, and Alice Partial, who's the Chief Medical Officer. We worked through the carbon reduction plan for year 1, and then we realised that we needed a team. So we brought a wider team in, and that's when Ted and Shakara and another 4 people joined the team. So a question just popped up there, actually. I think it possibly is relevant. I know. I see
it. It's gone away.
If someone can put that on my notes, that would be helpful. I can't.
The question was, who leads the process of obtaining / preparing for assessment in your organisation? Is this the marketing team?
Oh, good question. So it's a really good question. So so far, well, actually, year 1, level 1, I did it. And then level 2, I did it together with one of the team who's not on the call. So that's an example of us trying to do the knowledge transfer. So, you know, the team are busy. Clinical partners, their growth, as you can probably imagine with what they do as a business, they're very, very busy people. And we try to get the balance between, we do the heavy lifting, as much heavy lifting as we can for clinical partners, but get the education and knowledge transfer in so that at a point in time, they can wave goodbye to profit impact and run with it. So that's the answer. That's basically how we do the actual submission of the. But the submission is the easy bit, to be honest. The actual report. So if we take the carbon reduction plan for this year, Profit Impact did all the baseline calculations, and I came up with what I believe would be really good strategic reductions, so a strategy, and then modelled that out for the team. And then as a team, we sat and reviewed it, and we said, well, what do we think of this? And then what we actually did, we cut those down and we said, right, these 3 things, we're going to work on those this year. And so Profit Impact will support the team to make that happen. So we'll bring the momentum in for that. Hopefully that answers the question.
I just wanted to add, in terms of my role when it comes as part of the marketing sort of lead in our team here, I think when people, you know, in the wider business who may not be as familiar with net zero or carbon reduction or evergreen, you know, when people hear these terms, it can feel very technical and very disconnected from their day-to-day roles. And I think that's one of the challenges, is being able to translate these terminologies into something meaningful for each of these different teams. We're a huge company, we're a huge business. So the main thing is how can we make what we do matter to them, and how can we connect what we do back to patient care and sort of up the quality of our organisation. So it's, there's no quick win for this. It's a long-term sort of piece of work, which requires leadership buy-in, consistent communications internally and externally, and of course the collaboration of our team, with Ted and Adrian and such. So that's sort of where my role comes in, to be able to communicate sort of our developments, our achievements, and also where we may not be getting as far as we want to. So that's sort of where I come in from a marketing perspective, just to add to that.
Yeah,
that was helpful.
Yeah, no, thank you, Shakara. Thanks, Ruth, for saying that. I do believe that, like, having the metrics and that strategic, the strategic plan has been really helpful for the comms and marketing plan, Shakara, because we've got something tangible to say,
to use. Absolutely.
And it's not just fluffy messaging. It's like really realistic, honest numbers, which is great. Ted, I'm going to ask you a question. What's frustrated you, Ted, about the project?
I think extending from what Shakara has said and what I think hopefully has been made clear is that it is a long journey. We, as you can see from the slides, have planned to try and get to level 4 at the end of, or middle of 2028. Adrian mentioned that the work with Sarah was probably happening 18 months to 2 years before level 1. I don't know whether we were necessarily working towards level 1, but our engagement and talking about quality and sustainability with Sarah had started before that. So I think you can think about all of it and try and, I guess, dangle a carrot in front of your colleagues as this being a commercial win. But I think the point I'm trying to make is, I think the difficulty comes about with the integration of this across an organization, and I think the bigger you get, the harder it gets. So that's been the frustration. I think we're trying to probably communicate at base level that this is a commercial requirement, and ultimately feeds back to helping more patients as we become an increasingly preferred provider with the NHS. But really, I think the way to get around that integration problem is to try and have people on board and aligned with the kind of bigger picture around what it's doing for people and the planet. Because that will give you the momentum in terms of bumping it up people's to-do lists. And then, I think it's timely that I say something about Sarah, who really has helped break down the understanding of how to try and go step by step towards this accreditation and level by level. So I think that would be the frustration. I think in short is it's integrating. We have a small team doing the kind of in practice work who, through education, have managed to get up to speed, I think, with what's going on. But it is a complicated space, and we have a full-time employee workforce of 500 people. So trying to get them up to speed is a challenge, but it's also very necessary. 6 of us can understand it more than the others, but we need the others on the same page in order for it to take effect. So I'd say that's the biggest challenge. And actually, we were at a talk the other day, and it wasn't a business doing Evergreen, but it was a business implementing sustainability. It was a law firm implementing a sustainability strategy, and they had exactly the same frustrations around integration. But it's a case of gradually sticking to it, gradually educating your workforce and bringing them along the journey and getting them involved as early as you can, I think.
Yeah, no, I do share your frustration, and again, it's not a clinical partners thing. I think the bigger the business gets, clearly it just gets harder. It just gets harder. I think it is worth, you alluded to it, I think the education piece is big. And I think once people understand, so I know everybody on the team did the carbon literacy course with Lighthouse, and the feedback on that was just fantastic. And once you've done that, that was really helpful for you. And then you use sticker book. So I think the education is important, but I also think the metrics are really going to help. And then once you start to integrate that into people's jobs, and people understand, as Shakara said, how it's relevant to them, that's when you start to make it. But it's not quick. It just takes time. But you will get there. You're definitely going to get there. So that is good.
The last thing I'd add is that we won't be waving goodbye to Sarah anytime soon.
No way. No way. She's the backbone of us, for sure, when it comes to this journey. Absolutely.
Well, I enjoy it. But for the reason Adrian said, right, you're doing this because, you know, I think ambitious growing businesses in the healthcare sector, it's a perfect fit, right? And you want to do it, and you know, you're very honest with it, and that is, for me, I love it. I'm glad I'm not going anywhere soon. So that is good. But if you have any more questions, clinical partners, do pop them in. Do give them a follow on LinkedIn, because then you can see all the fantastic posts that Shakara puts out on their journey, which is really interesting. Wanted to do just really quick before we get into any Q&A, just a little bit on benefits and outcomes. So it's something Adrian says to me quite a lot, is Sarah, we need to really articulate the benefits and outcomes. I mean, and he's right, and he's absolutely spot on. I think around every board table, you have 3 different types of people. You have people that are just going to do this anyway because they're values led and we just need to get on with it. You have people that, well, we've got to do this for compliance, so let's get on with it. And then you will have people that will say, hey, come on, what are the results here? What's this actually going to give us? The truth financially is that people need to take a leap of faith, is what I believe. We have done a lot of work, a lot of research, and we're very happy to do kind of tailored business cases for people. That if you take 2 companies, one with an integrated triple bottom line and one without, the one with an integrated will perform stronger. Yeah, that's the evidence is there. So financially it's there, but it's a long term, it's a long game. Yeah, so there's got to be that leap of faith, and clearly you've got to have the time and the money to invest in it as well. Today, depending what level you want to aspire to. The other, I mean, you've got the B Corp stats on here. These are just some of the research pieces, and this is just the B Corps in the UK. What you'll find is that businesses that are following this route tend to have a enhanced brand reputation. Okay, and they tend to be more innovative. So once you start to understand the challenges out in the world on climate and social, you tend to be more innovative because you're starting to think, right, what can we do to support that? And so those 2 things have a positive impact on revenue. And then overall, you will find that you will have happier teams overall. Yeah. And that will increase retention rates and the cost, the cost of recruiting and onboarding. There are many other areas where you can see changes in your financials, but they're kind of some of the key stats that I thought I would share, because they're quite powerful actually for people to start to see that. and start to understand what it could mean. I think I just wanted to say one more thing about an outcome and benefit. It's going to sound a little bit pink and fluffy, this one, so bear with me. But every customer I've ever worked with, okay, I see they are more hopeful and positive once they start doing this. And in a world where we're surrounded by geopolitical challenges, AI, mental health problems, climate, it's not easy for people, right? It's not easy for people. And done well, this can actually make people feel happier. And, you know, for me, that's got to be a good thing. So that's a bit of a pink and fluffy benefit and outcome, but it's actually quite a powerful one. And that's just honestly, you know, you may be thinking, well, Sarah, you would say that because that's what profit impact does for a living, but it's what I see, you know, it's what I honestly see. So, I think that's it. Quite over time. Is there any questions from anybody that
Sarah, could I just add that
yes,
in terms of the time we've been working with profit impact and just looking at them stats that you had on the last sheet, organisationally for clinical partners, we're ahead of the UK B Corp stats. Now, I'm not saying that is just a reflection of Sarah's work, because actually these are our values in everything that we do. But for B Corp, our ambition here is not to tick a box. It's to invest in this for the long-term benefit of all. And that's really important, because that's how you get the buying of Shikara and Ted and their peers. Yeah. And our HR team are telling us the feedback we're getting is that for that generation, this is important to them, and if it's important to them, it better be important to us. So it's it's an environment thing, it's a planet thing, it's our people thing. It is an NHS thing, and they're very serious about this. Ted and I attended a meeting where there were some NHS Evergreen representatives there. They are, with all the stuff that's going on in the NHS, they're absolutely solid, resolute. This is the direction of travel for them, and we want to be a key player, supporter of that initiative. We feel in the long term that's the right thing for them and for us. So I just wanted to add that, and just to reiterate what Ted said, Sarah always thinks that we're looking to get rid of her because of the cost, but we're just not. In terms of value add, it's been amazing. So I just want to leave you with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Adrian, I'd also add that just on and Sarah's point around, taking a leap of faith and investing it, even if you look at the kind of national emergency briefing videos that cover food threats to food supply, healthcare, national security, the message set out on that page is that investing in genuine emergency action will make us better off. And I think, like Adrian said, there can be everything can be going on in the world, but I think you've got to sort of look at it from an individual company point of view and know that you are doing your part as a good actor. And I think Sarah will be able to estimate the financial return on your investment. But I think there are two big intangible benefits that we believe in, which is our reputation as a quality healthcare provider, and then I guess off the back of our reputation is hopefully our ability to influence and inspire others to do the same. So yeah, you can quantify it like the B Corp stats that we've just seen, but I think there are some intangible benefits. And I think if everyone does their part, the sum is a greater whole.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. Thank you, Ted. I know there are a couple of questions, but we have literally run out of time. But I will come back to the two people that have asked those questions. I'll go back to you directly with an email. You'll see on your screen the QR code to the health check. You will also send it out. It's just it's quite a natty little tool. Actually, it is quite helpful, I believe. So you can go in and you can complete that. And then those that want to, then we can just have a kind of a call. If you've got any follow-up questions, that's absolutely fine. But I did want to thank everybody for coming and listening and contributing, and particularly big thank you to clinical partners for saying they're not going to get rid of me. I'm joking. For coming and sharing their story, and also to my team who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this happen. Thank you for that. And I wish everyone luck with this. This is doable. Don't be overwhelmed with all those slides. You know, level 1, you can definitely do it. And I mean, we have to do it, but you can definitely do it. So that's something that actually, one thing I did want to say was we can signpost people. So we can signpost you for resources and things as well, and education. If you just want to run on your own, that's, you know, we will definitely do that. You just if you want some support, whether it's signposting or our time, then you just need to let me know. But it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for giving up your time.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.